Let's be honest, Disney don't have the best record when it comes to sequels, and now with the release of Moana 2, is this a success story or another one to be added to the long list? Well, one department where the film has succeeded is at the box office, because as we see here, Moana 2 has already beaten the original film's domestic box office run, and this weekend, its second weekend, it looks likely to go over around $600 million. The original film made a total worldwide of 687, so it's definitely on course to beat that. Whether it'll get to Inside Out 2's level, probably not, because that got to around 1.5 billion. It was pretty impressive, I've got to say, and I don't think Moana 2's got the legs to maybe get there, especially with films like Sonic the Hedgehog 3 coming out and Mufasa. They'll take quite a few of those tickets from Moana, whereas Wicked, I think that will continue on because that has a bit more of a broader sort of blanket of people to go for. But yeah, Moana 2, that's still fantastic. I mean, for a budget of around $150 million, this is a win for Disney.
Hello, I like money.
With this financial success for Disney, I bet they're very happy they changed course from their original plan, which was to make Moana into a Disney Plus series to continue her story that way. But as they looked at the data, they found out that Moana actually has the most minutes watched of anything on Disney Plus. So, of course, you're going to make a theatrical sequel. And as we've seen, it has done very well. But what will they do next? Well, I think Moana is going to be branching out into quite a few more films, and possibly might even get a Disney Plus series with some of these other characters they've introduced here. Unlike in the first Moana, this time she brings some people from the island as crewmates. We have an old farmer who's pretty grumpy most of the time, we have a guy at the back who's strong but also very much into Maui, and then we have a girl who's a bit of a geeky one, and she knows all the sort of calculations for things. So they all have their individual thing, which is what keeps them going as characters, and you know they're going to at some point come into play. But the problem with this crew is that is what they're like. They are very much just one-dimensional characters, and they get quite obnoxious, really, especially the girl. And at times when we get into the story, it's like, I just wish we were back with Maui and Moana, that dynamic again, but we have all this other baggage this time. In terms of the adventure Moana's going on this time, it involves her trying to find more people, and she gets a vision from one of her ancestors about a storm god called Nalo, and Nala at one point sunk a legendary island to the bottom of the sea, and this island was the island which connected all the people together. So her goal, as expected, is to try and find this island. Along her journey, Moana and her crew do bump into some recognisable characters, those being the Kokomora from the first film, and that was no real shock at all, because these coconut people are perfect for merch. I mean, they're basically like Moana minions. They're great for Disney, they can do anything they want with them. At least this time, though, they do have a bit more of an impact on the overall story. But unfortunately, when it comes to the plot for Moana 2, this is where the film is a complete letdown, because we set sail, we meet a few characters, then nothing really happens for a bit. We then get Moana to reunite with Maui, which takes around 50 minutes of about an hour and a half film, so quite a long time. And then we have a climatic fight with these tornadoes in the sea, and there's a few things going on, but that's it. That's it. I mean, there's not really much on an adventure here. It just makes you think, like, did they have all these ideas for the Disney Plus series? They tried to weave it into a film, because that's what it feels like. It feels like this it's half baked, and it's like they're trying to turn spaghetti into a roast dinner. It's just not working. And alongside that, you have the songs, which all feel like second choice songs compared to that original film, and yeah, nothing really comes together. And so you have all these new characters, like the crewmates. I mean, Moana's even got a little sister we see in the early parts of the film. But again, all these characters just feel like they're there for merch, really, or just for there to be, used later in the next film or in Disney Plus shows. And so this just feels like it's trying to be like a bridge to more things. But when it comes to the reality of this sequel, it is very, very underwhelming. As I said, the film really takes its time to reunite Moana and Maui, and even when they are together, they have a few scenes and a few moments, mostly just sort of referencing the first film, and a few jokes which don't really land. There's obviously a few musical numbers, but as I said, they're very much second choice. And I think some of that is obviously down to Lin-Manuel Miranda not coming back for this film, and he's actually gone on to work for Mufasa this time. And so, yeah, it is missing that golden touch, because there's no song here like, You're Welcome, or like with How Far I'll Go, which will just stick in your head long after the runtime. But it's just a shame, because, like I said, in that first film, they were the key dynamic. They were the pairing. And so for this film to have so little of that, was very disappointing. Now, I don't know about you, but I watched Moana 2 in the morning after a pretty decent night's sleep, but this film was really trying to put me back to sleep because I was struggling to get invested in this story and the stakes involved because, Moana's little sister, she's very worried for her safety as she leaves. But I'm like, hold on, why are you even worried for her? She's friends with the ocean, as we see in this picture here, and so there's no real threat or danger. At some point, it does get compromised, but you never really believe that anything is going to happen to these characters. Now, that's not to say like in the first film that was the case either, really, but this was in the first film. You're still learning about Moana. You're still learning about her connection to the ocean and to Maui and to Fiti, like that threat. So that was all very clear. Here, the threat's not clear. It's very vague, and they made it vague because bloody hell, they did an end credit scene setting up more films, and I'm like, oh, really?
Not another one? Oh, for God's sake, I can't stand this.
And you know what? It really is quite a shame because that first Moana film I really enjoyed, and yet again we have a sequel here which is completely inferior to it. And so if I ever want to get into that Moana world again, I'm only ever going to watch that first film. Bit like with Gladiator recently, I'm only ever going to watch Gladiator 1 because Gladiator 2 was so weak compared to that. And it kind of annoys me that we have to refer to them now as Gladiator 1 and Moana 1 because we have these unnecessary sequels. And there will be more, as I said, there is a tease for another one. And we're even getting a Moana live action film with The Rock filming currently as well. So Moana's not going away anytime soon. But yeah, it is quite a shame. In terms of quality things of the film though, it still looks great. So animators, well done once again. And I think the voice cast is still on top form, but I wish they had some better material to work with. And in terms of some of the other characters I mentioned, like the pig and the chicken, I mean, I wanted more of them. I mean, the pig's finally gone on the journey, but didn't really get to do much. And the chicken, unironically, is probably the best character. So we know that money talks when it comes to Moana 2, but what do the people think? Well, on Rotten Tomatoes, we can see here that the critic score is 62% and the audience score is 87%, which is pretty high. I would go below both of those scores. I don't know, probably around 40% sort of region. But I can understand the high audience scores. I think people will be taking their kids to watch this, and kids are very forgiving in terms of films. As long as it's got the characters they like in it, they'll probably enjoy it. It's like when I was a kid, I really enjoyed Looney Tunes Back in Action. I know now looking back as an adult, it's not a great film, but I just like seeing Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny and all those characters I loved. But something I don't think Moana 2 can guarantee is that repeat viewing, because unlike a film like Wicked currently, which is getting people to talk about it all the time and get people to come back and watch it with their friends and family, I just don't think Moana 2's got that about it because, as I said, I don't think it's a good film, and I don't think that word of mouth will be there for people to want to come and watch it again and again. So yes, with that first Moana film, I walked out of that cinema with a spring in my step, but with Moana 2, I was just sat in my chair with this in my mind.
Well, this sucks.
Anyway, if you've seen Moana 2, what were your thoughts? Do they align close to mine? Or do you actually really have a fun time with this film? Let me know all that down below. Subscribe for more. And of course, if you want to watch another video, on screen we have a couple of my recent reviews, including one for Wicked and one about YouTube I've recommended for you.